All right, it is 9 o'clock and it's time to start our first session of the day. And we are here to talk about Be a Hero, Become a Teacher. So I would like to present Mr. Roger. I'm going to, unfortunately, probably say your last name wrong, but I will try. Shefrek?
You're cutting out a little bit on me, but it's Shifarek, and that's close enough. I think we'll go ahead and get started. First off, I appreciate everybody being here. All right, thank you, Donna. Appreciate everybody being here for us. I certainly wish we could be face-to-face, and we'll get there at some point. But I do appreciate you being here to find out what it takes to be a hero. We've got a great cast of superstars that are going to be talking to you. But if you think about what profession is needed most in today's society, it's a teacher. And think about the power and influence that you can have as a teacher. I suspect that each and every one of you can think back upon your experience up till now, and you have a teacher that positively impacted your life in some way. And that may be the reason you're here, is because you want to emulate what that person did for you. Right now, the job market, as you all experienced, we hear about job cuts happening across the country because of COVID-19. The one thing that didn't happen was a talk and reduction of teachers, because we will always need teachers. So it's a career path that provides job stability, but more so, you get the intrinsic rewards of making a difference in a student's life. And so you're going to hear more about that today. There's a commercial on the radio, if you listen to the radio anymore, and it talks about heroes are teachers. And we really truly believe that because you do make a difference in a student's life. Heroes are always carry great responsibility, and they're supposed to do well with it. And so teachers, of course, do that. And I'm going to kick it over to Marcus Kidd, our assistant director, and he's going to run through the program, and then we'll bring in a couple of our other ambassadors to be able to talk about what it's really like to be an education major at K-State. So Marcus, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Schiefrick. So for everyone, good morning. Good morning. We have a pretty big group, which is really, really exciting. And so I'm here along with Dr. Schiefrick and our ambassadors just to share more about what that journey can look like to becoming a teacher. I think Dr. Schiefrick hit the nail on the head. Being a teacher is such a rewarding career, and it's a great, passionate field to go into. And so we want to just show you what that pathway can look like, just to set you up for success for if you want to be a teacher. So just mainly highlighting how our program at K-State, that pathway that you can take, how it's separate and individualized from other pathways that you may be choosing from other institutions or whatnot. So I'm going to get the presentation on the screen, and then I'll let our ambassadors introduce themselves really fast. All right, can everyone see that screen okay? Thumbs up from Nick or Dr. Schiefrick or Ashlyn? Yeah, okay, perfect. That's all I need. Okay, so again, welcome to K-State from wherever you are. Behind me is just my living room. So I have my couch and my hanger with some of my clothes on it. But I also have some other guests with me. I have 3 cats, and they like to, of course, make random appearances while I'm presenting. So if you see some of my friends join me on screen, that's who they are. So, but I'll let our ambassadors, Nick, introduce themselves really fast. So Nick and Ashlyn, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. So like you said, we're ambassadors. We're just students at K-State that like to go and preach why being an ed at K-State's awesome. So where am I from? I'm actually from Wichita, Kansas. Currently, since of COVID, I'm actually at Wichita right now. So that's where I'm from. I'm studying secondary education with an emphasis in social studies. So I'll be like a high school teacher teaching hopefully history here. Why I chose K-State? Well, K-State's like a huge campus that feels really, really tiny and feels very, very tight-knit and has a really big family atmosphere to it. And that's what made me want to go there. And that's what kind of differentiated from other colleges with similar type environments. And why I wanted to teach, like he said, and Robert Sheeger said that, we at the college really propose teaching is a huge impact on everyone else. I know I personally realized with this whole pandemic crisis that teachers are more than ever like really needed in the world. And lots of the teachers that I had in high school really impacted me. And so I'm hoping to do the same to the future generation. Ashlyn?
Hello, so my name's Ashlyn. Thank you, Nick and Marcus. I'm actually from Manhattan, Kansas, so it's really exciting to get to talk to you guys because I also did 4-H in the Kansas area, so this is really fun for me. I'm also studying secondary social studies, same as Nick, so hopefully high school history or government. I also love politics. I chose K-State kind of because I was in 4-H, and as 4-Hers, we kind of get a lot of experience with K-State, especially in the Riley County area. And I just was shown so much love and like the family atmosphere at K-State. So I knew I had to go here. And why I want to teach is because I just want to share my passion of learning with students and also really impact their lives, like Nick said.
Perfect. Thank you both for that introduction. Had to find my unmute button. But yeah, so we're really excited again to be presenting with you all today. What's really nice is that I see that some of us have already familiarized ourselves with the chat feature. So while we do have an hour, we're really excited to be able to share all this information with you. But with that, if you think of any questions, just for us to be able to keep on pace with everything, feel free just to throw your questions in the chat. And then Ashlyn and Nick will be moderating that as we go through. And so depending on what the question is, they may respond directly to you via chat, or in between us going from slide to slide, they may just add in there audibly what the question was and answered for you. So, but on the screen now, what we have are just some different characteristics that relate to being teachers. So what we actually did some research. We went out and really just researched a lot of different teaching positions, and we really just captured and summarized what a lot of these different characteristics are that show what successful teachers do. So when you think about being a teacher, similar to what a lot of us have highlighted, Nick and Ashlyn with why they want to go into education, what Dr. Shivrik shared about the passion of education, I'm hoping that a lot of these different characteristics resonate with who you are as a person. So I know that for me, a lot of people say I'm really enthusiastic and that I practice great ethical standards, which is good. And I didn't share this in the beginning when I did my introduction, but with my role in the college, my title is the Enrollment Management and an Institutional Partnerships Assistant Director. And so that's a pretty big field. But with me, I earned 2 degrees from K-State. My second degree focuses on education, but more or less with working with college students. And so that's what my passion is. And so, again, all of us have that strong passion for education just to be able to share and resonate with you for today. Yeah, looking at some of the different teaching qualities that come with the job as well. It's a really good time to kind of show your creative skills with making different lesson plans and really just showing your different dynamics in the classroom just to share more information with students. And so, as I shared before, the pathway that you can take for your journey to become a teacher is definitely one that, while this graphic really simplifies it, there's really so many different ways that you can go with your K-State experience. And Ashlyn and Nick will actually talk about that in a few more slides further down in the presentation. But the overview, the general aspect of it is that for a lot of students that are interested in K-State or, that are checking out different programs, they always, we have everyone start off on this far left side of the graphic, being able to interact with myself, our ambassadors. And so that can be in the form of so many different events, such as 4-H Discovery Days. New Student Services hosts some different events as well for us throughout the year. But we also offer individualized campus visits. And so what's really neat as well is that while we are all remote right now, our New Student Services unit is offering virtual visits. And so after this, if you're wanting to follow up with us to get more specific information, or if you just want to meet with us just to chat more about education, we would love to talk to you. So just something to keep in mind as well. I'm not sure when that would be shared with you all, so I just wanted to mention it there. But the overall hope is that you will visit with us and then apply and enroll to start your journey to becoming an educator. And so along that way, once you get to K-State, once you apply and enroll, you'll get to meet your academic advisor. And again, we'll talk about that more in just a second too. And so it's really neat. Just a quick highlight point is that each advisor has been in the schools before as either an educator or some sort of professional staff working with students. And so they have that firsthand knowledge as well to be able to connect with you as you go through your journey in the program. And so within there as well, you'll be able to interact with a lot of different professors in your different classes. They've all been educators in the schools before too. And that we want to allow that to lead to graduation and you being licensed. And so we'll get into the weeds in just a little bit of what specifically that looks like, that pathway. But if you look at the yellow gold dots on the screen, you'll see that there's so many different touch points and different interaction points that you can have to, again, enhance your experience. So Ashlyn and Nick right now, they're serving you as being an ambassador for the college. So they get to participate in fun events like this, like helping with presentations, but also meeting with students that come for visits, things like that. But we have scholarship opportunities that again we'll get into, and then again we just have so many different other involvement aspects that kind of can really impact and shape your experience. Ashlyn and Nick, do you guys have anything to add about this at all? About any of the resources in the College of Ed? Okay, awesome, perfect. So going into our basic overview of the college. So one of the pride points that we like to share is that we are the largest preparer of teachers in the state of Kansas. So we have 28 academic areas and teaching fields to choose from, and so we have a pretty big audience, and normally at this time we would like to stop and just have everyone go through what their teaching field would be. But being that there's a total of 65 of us, that may take a little bit longer than expected to get through that. So we'll forgo that for today. But just relating this to their overall mission of the College of Ed at K-State, preparing educators to be knowledgeable, ethical, and caring decision makers for a diverse and changing world. I think we can all say that right now, with what we're going through with COVID-19, with this experience of us being in our own living spaces right now, tuning in to your presentation, that it's unprecedented, right? So it's definitely a big changing part of our world right now. But with that, the College of Ed, we're nimble professionals. We're able to make things work. We're able to change things on the fly. And again, we, this experience for us as staff, as faculty, us as professors in the college, it's been great seeing this experience come through. It's been able to help us, identify some things that we didn't think about before with how we can best work with our students. And for me, working with new students, it's been helpful just thinking about some different ways that we can continue those connections too. So that leads us to, what teaching field? What do I want to teach? If I want to be a teacher, what options do I even have? So again, at K-State, we offer a wide variety of options for you to choose from. So if you are looking more to wanting to teach younger kiddos, so grades K through 6, you're going to be more or less looking at the options on the left side of the screen. These really just show a lot of the different areas of concentration that can be offered up for elementary education. And so English, mathematics, modern languages, science, social sciences, those are just some of the few that you can choose from. But what's really nice is that if you look towards at the bottom of that list, there's an open option. And so if you thought about, I really want to be an elementary education teacher, I'm not really sure about an area of concentration, what's nice is that you can take that open option and apply it to an area that's not listed on this list. So if you would want to minor in psychology, that's what my undergrad is in, you could definitely do that. Or if you want to minor in leadership studies, that's a very popular program that's compatible with any academic major, you can do that too. And so if that's something of interest, then again, that's just something that your advisor would work with you on plugging into your schedule. But if you are looking to, want to teach secondary education on that secondary level, so grades 7 through 12, you'll more or less be looking at the options on the right side of the screen. So just a few: ag education, art education, biology, business, Social studies, like Ashlyn and Nick, those are all areas that are available for if you want to teach more in the 7th through 12th grade realm. And so as we look at this list, some things to take note though. If you look at any of the items that have the double asterisks next to them, so agriculture education, music education, technology education, family consumer sciences, what's really nice is that we've worked and partnered with different academic units to deliver those course options to you. So for instance, agricultural education, you'll kind of be like a hybrid student, if you will. You'll have an advisor in our college, in the College of Ed, but you'll also have an advisor in the College of Agriculture, or whatever the other area is housed in. And so what that really shares, just to kind of get to the point with you all, is that there's really no bounds to where education can take you. If there's an area that you'd like to teach, more than likely we have the teaching field appropriate to kind of help you get there. And so Ashlyn, Nick, do you guys have anything to add to that? I know that was a lot of me talking for these past few minutes.
You did a great job. I'll just go and point on the last slide before we didn't really talk much, but the a lot of different touch points. There's like the college education here has tons and tons of opportunities for you. I know that Ashlyn is like involved really heavily in KNEA and another one. So it's too bad you didn't get to talk on that one, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of different fields to go and enter, and you'll pretty much find any field that you need to here.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. The best part about the College of Ed is when you're starting in your like earlier education classes, you get to kind of mingle with future educators from every subject. So you're not just confined to, it's not just me and Nick in social studies. Like I make friends in ag ed and like English and then elementary education. And it's really fun because you get to kind of bounce ideas that you wouldn't think about in your certain field.
Perfect. Thank you both. And I was also looking at the chat, and I saw a quick question or a quick ad-lib about special education. And so that is something that we'll cover. We're actually going to go through some of the curriculum guides in just a second. And so I'll make a mental note to review that. And if I don't, then feel free to stop me, and we can definitely do that. No problem. Okay, so we'll actually do that right now. Go to the curriculum guides. So we have these different screenshots on here that show elementary education, secondary education, and educational studies. But I'm actually going to pull up a PDF that has these details in more of a rich context for us to see that. So I am going to stop sharing my screen for just a second so I can get those other documents pulled up. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so what I'll do, I will review the elementary education curriculum guide first, and then I'll bounce over to the secondary education one. What's really nice is that a lot of the curriculum guides are pretty similar, and what you'll see that's different are just a few key details. So let me pull that up for you all. Okay, and then can I get a quick visual confirmation from Nick and Ashlyn if you guys can see this or not? Okay, perfect. So this is our elementary education curriculum guide. So this really much gets into the weeds of what the program is like on an academic basis for what classes you'll take. So getting more detailed into this, so this curriculum guide shows your classes for the full 120 hours of your program at K-State. So just a quick fun fact, in case you didn't know, 120 hours is the basis for a lot of different academic programs at K-State. And so if you're interested in education, or even if you change your mind later, may be considering another field to go into, another major, which we hope not, but and 120 is like that baseline for your program. So if you take 120 hours, divide that up evenly amongst 4 years, and split that in half for the different semesters, fall and spring, you'll come to get around like 15 hours a semester. And so what's really nice too is that if you are taking classes for AP credit, college credit or IB credit, chances are that some of those can come in to transfer in to take up some of our requirements, class requirements, and that could just help you get through the program faster, which is, I think, really nice. So getting deep into the details of the curriculum guide for elementary education, the best way for me to explain it is just moving from left to right, just so that we can stay in sequence there. But before I do that, though, I just want to highlight our K-State 8, and I'm going to blow this up so that we can see it. But the K-State 8, these are just 8 different areas that we want all of our students at K-State to be exposed to while they're here. And so just to pull out a few examples, empirical and quantitative reasoning, global issues, natural and physical sciences, all of these are just areas that we want, at minimum, all of our students to be exposed to in some capacity when they come to K-State. And so generally what that looks like, that looks like you taking some of those specific classes to kind of hit some of those different areas. What's really nice, though, about the education program is that for elementary education, of course, you'll be teaching all the different subjects anyway. So a lot of these different 8 areas are already covered and they're already built into your curriculum. So you won't have to worry about trying to get into some other classes. But for secondary education majors, depending on what your teaching field is, there may be some augmentation to your general education courses, and in the second column that you'll complete so that you can get all those 8 areas taken care of. But for our program overall, I'd say one thing that we do to distinguish our students is that we have a pre-professional batch of students and a professional batch of students. And so what that means is that regardless, anyone that applies to be in the education program at K-State, they're in the College of Education. That doesn't change. And we call our students in the College of Education EdCats. And so you'll probably be seeing a lot of that if you haven't already throughout all of our presentation. But for our licensing and accreditation for our program, we have to have some way to distinguish between students that are eligible to go into the professional aspects of the program, of like being considered student teachers, versus those that have not yet reached that point. So that's why we have pre-professional and professional students. And so to become a professional student, we really just use this checklist on this far left-hand side that kind of helps guide us through what that process looks like. So for elementary education majors, what we're looking at having at least 42 credit hours completed, making sure that you have your XPLOS writing 1 and 2 completed, public speaking, college algebra, math, and statistics. And so why do we require those classes? Well, when you think about it from our end, getting people to be ready to go in and teach in schools, baby steps, of course, small strokes are always good. But looking at that, what basic skills do we want to make sure that you have to make sure that you are well equipped to be in the classroom, to be a student teacher for whoever your cooperating teacher is. So knowing how to write, we want to make sure that you have those basic writing skills down. So if you're writing emails to your teacher or to parents or anything for any reason, we want to make sure that you have those writing skills that are fully developed. With that, public speaking. So, if you are like me, Nick and Ashlyn right now, speaking to a group of around 60 of us virtually from a computer screen, having some of those public speaking skills is probably pretty good. But same thing for if you're teaching a classroom of 30 in your school building face-to-face. Knowing those different strategies to deliver your content verbally is definitely something good to have. Math skills, of course, basic math skills are always good. When we think about grading papers or different assignments, your central tendencies always come into play. So your mean, median, your mode, all of those are just fun things that are still good for you to know. So again, those are just some of those basics that we want to make sure that you have covered before we actually send you into the classroom. We're also going to be looking at your GPA to make sure that that's in line as well, making sure that you're academically successful to be in front of a classroom of students, whether it be elementary students or secondary students. And we also want to make sure that you have, in some capacity, have done some sort of in-field experience with actually being in the schools. We'll get into more of what that looks like in just a second, but the early field experience class is more of an observational class for you to really kind of test the waters. We do have some students that are coming through the education program that, they've never been in the classroom before and they've never worked with students before. And so we want to make sure that they have some sort of a teaser to that before they can progress to the program. Because the last thing that we would want is to have a student that gets to the classroom and then realizes that they don't want to be a teacher, or they want to change their teaching field, or they want to teach younger kiddos and not older kiddos, and so we try and build all of that in to the academic side of it, so that your experiences are enhanced, if you will. So looking at the general education column, these are pretty much completed by students within their first 1 to 2 years at K-State. And so, like I said, this pretty much goes into the highlights of the different classes that you'll take before you get into your professional education only classes. So going down the spectrum, we have our communication classes, so writing and public speaking, those are all there. And then for elementary majors, we have some other classes specifically for those students to complete. But getting into the social sciences, that's kind of where some of the flexibility comes in with the program. So for instance, the social science class right here, you can take Intro to Human Development if you'd like, but we're also allowing you to kind of open that up as well. So if you want to take Intro to Psychology or Intro to Sociology, those are all 3 classes that are options for you to take. Same thing for your history, geography, political science, and economics. What we're having you choose 3 of those 4 areas. So if you know for sure that you aren't a big history buff, then no harm, no foul. Hopefully Nick or Ashlyn won't get mad at you or anything, but you have some other options as well for you to complete. So but like same thing for the natural sciences and quantitative sciences. We clearly have listed there for you the number of hours we need for you to complete, for you to kind of check that off the list. Nick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so a question came from initials LO. Are there certain classes you need to take in high school to complete the education program? There is not like a requirement for it, but there's definitely a lot of like classes. I know I took a lot of AP and dual credit courses. Those can really help you on your journey to getting some credits out of the way. So there's not any requirements per se other than getting the degree in high school, but you can really save yourself a lot of time and money if you end up doing some of those.
Perfect. Thank you. Ashlyn, do you have anything to add?
Sorry, hold on, I was on mute. So Sakesh had a question asking, is this the degree I need to be a professor? So I wanted you to help answer this question so you can provide some insight on how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to be a professor, I would say there's so many ways that you can go with that. So if you're wanting to be a professor of education, then yes, always, getting your degree in education is always good. But kind of going back to my intro, so my undergrad was in psychology, and it wasn't until my senior year at K-State that I realized I like working with college students. So students that are around like Nick and Ashlyn's age. And so like not high school or not elementary school students. So I did my master's in counseling and student development, and I'm working on my doctorate in the same thing. And then that could enable me to go more into academia, to be a professor, to do research on college student development. But it kind of just depends on what field you want to actually teach in. So like I said before, all of our faculty that are in the College of Education, so all of our faculty that are teaching all of these classes to our students, they've all been educators before. And so they're able to pull off their firsthand experiences to resonate with how they teach their classes in the classroom at K-State. But say, for instance, you want to be a history professor, you wouldn't necessarily need to go through the route of being an education major to do that, to be licensed. You would just major in history and then get your master's in history, and then get your doctorate in history. And then from there, that would make you equipped with a degree to be able to apply and secure a profession, or just secure a job of that profession. So I hope that helps answer it. But if it didn't, no worries. Just feel free to throw some more context questions in the chat, and then we can kind of narrow in on that for you if you'd like. So looking at our teacher education courses in this third column here, this is more highlighting some of the basic classes that we have our students take in the college, again, before they get into their professional classes. And so what these look like, we have teaching as a career, early field experience, foundations of education. These are all classes that will have you take at different points in your K-State career. So for example, the foundations of education class, that used to be a class that we would have students wait for until their second year at K-State. We've now revised that, and we now have that be one of the first classes that we have our students take. Because what we learned and realized is that it's a really great class that kind of helps set the stage for the rest of the program, of what that looks like academically, what you can expect with working with different faculty members in the college, and what you can expect with working with different students that are in the same major as you. And so this is actually one of the classes that you'll actually be able to meet other education majors as well. While you go through your journey of completing your general education classes, again, they call them gen eds for a reason, being that you'll more than likely be taking them with other students of other backgrounds, like other majors. But when you get into our education classes, these will be more or less comprised of just education majors. So, we're giving you a good teaser for what that could look like. So once you finish that portion of the classes, and once you complete all the other items of your checklist, your advisor is going to work with you to have you move over into the professional program. And that's kind of basically everything below this bolded line there. So the professional program, that's where you'll take your block classes. And so we call them blocks because, staying true to the name, they're meant to be taken as a unit. So looking here, and I'll make this a little bit bigger for everyone, you will have block A, you'll take all those classes together, and then you'll have block B, you'll take all those classes together, and then you'll have block C, and you'll take all of those classes together. And so block A more or less goes in depth with how you, with what skills you need a teacher, plain and simple. So not even examining what you're teaching, just looking at how you can teach. Those are some of the highlight skills that we like to review. And so, thinking about that, what best way to help you do that? So that's why we have educational psychology. So if any of you have already taken a psych class in high school, you might have had the chance to learn about Piaget or Erikson, learn about some different psychosocial theories. How do we learn to interact with one another? How do I learn social cues to know when someone wants to speak or whatnot? Things like that. You'll be learning all of that, and you'll be learning that from the perspective of a student. So, if you're wanting to be an elementary education teacher, what will that look like? At age 7, what theory will most likely be at play for explaining their social development? So learning along with other students how they play at recess in the playground, so many different facets of that. Same thing with high school. You'll learn about some different realms of theories of students and how they're developing. They're going through puberty at that time. So what does that look like and everything too? So along with knowing how students are thinking, you'll also learn more about the core teaching skills that best follow those practices that you learn in educational psychology. And so we have a really great ed tech class that really kind of gets you geared up for how to work with technology in your classroom. So if you're working with a school that has iPads for all their students, like a 1-to-1 ratio, or if you're working with a classroom that has, or a school that has Chromebooks or netbooks or some sort of other mass computing devices, we'll help you learn those different skills as well. Going into blocks B and C, that's when you'll get more into the details of how you teach your specific content area. And so one thing to note really fast, because I haven't shared it yet, you'll have 3 blocks A, B, and C for elementary education students, but then if you're wanting to teach secondary education, you'll have blocks 1 and 2. So the equivalent of what you'll learn in block 1 is what block A is. And so these different classes here you'll have for block 1 if you're wanting to be a secondary ed teacher. Going to blocks B and C, or block 2, for block 2, you'll learn how you teach your specific content area. And so with that, block B, for instance, we have EDEL 411, teaching literacy grades K through 2. So for that, you'll take that in block B, but then if you look down in block C, EDEL 461, you'll have teaching literacy grades 3 through 6. So we kind of split some things up for elementary education because when you think about it, teaching a kindergartner how to read, you may not need to worry about that for a 6th grader. And so And so, like, what do those different realities look like? And so we kind of have that broken up for these, whatever the different content area is. So literacy science, will also show you best practices for you to assess how your students are learning. So is a test really the best way to assess if a student learns how to work with another student? That may be better displayed in the form of a group project or something instead, So we go through all of that for you through your block classes. And then with that, along the way, as you do that, we'll also work with you to have you start taking your licensing exams. Yay, go licensing. So we'll have you complete some exams that really relate to different classes that you're taking. And again, it's more or less, we want to make sure that you have the skills in play for you to be able to go into the classroom and conquer it, make sure that you actually can help your students learn. So what that licensing looks like, it looks like an exam over some of these classes, but also an exam over your content area. So if you're an elementary education major, then there'll be a content area test over that. But if you want to do secondary ed social studies like Ashlyn and Nick, there'll be a specific content area test for that field. So I know that the chat's blowing up, so I'll take a pause. And Ashlyn and Nick, do you guys want to share what some of these things are in the chat?
Yeah, so the first one was from Kaylee. Is there a specific college that you have to go to become a social worker?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you're interested in just social work, then that will be in the College of Arts and Sciences. And so I don't know how it could work with us to get more info to you, but maybe I may just defer to the hosts. And if there's any specific questions that we can follow up with you on afterwards, I can work with them to get that info, to get that back to you. But that is specifically in the College of Arts and Sciences, and there's a social work department, and essentially you would just go through the social work program, and it won't be comprised like this. Obviously, of course, this is fine-tuned for education, but yeah, it will just map out what those different classes are for you. So, good question.
And the second question is from Julie. Is it possible to learn how to teach all grades, such as future homeschooling?
That's a good question too. So, what I'd share on that end, that's a really good question. I haven't been asked about homeschooling before. So I'll tackle that in parts, I guess. So if you want to teach all grades, so like K through 12, that really kind of depends on what the teaching field is. So like, for instance, art education and physical education and health. Those are two different teaching fields that, due to their licensing requirements, that actually enables you to teach grades PK all the way to 12th grade. But that's exclusive to like a few teaching fields. You can't do that for all of them. But one thing I can share too is that, say that you'd want to have a license that is more robust to be able to allow you to teach any grade area. What that would look like logistically and systematically, you would major in elementary education. And my recommendation would be for you to have a area of concentration or teaching field that is pretty specific to what you want to be able to teach. And essentially what that looks like, all you would have to do is just pass your content exam. Well, that's not all you'd have to do, but the bulk of it is you passing your content exams. So for instance, if I want to be an elementary education teacher, but I really want to teach math, like I love algebra, I love calculus, I want to teach, 7-year-olds, but I also want to be able to teach 15, 16-year-olds on the complexities of math. Then what I would do, I would major in elementary education, and I would more than likely choose math as my area of concentration. And then when it comes to my exams, I would take my elementary education content exam in addition to taking my mathematics content exam. And if I pass that secondary ed mathematics content exam, then when I get my license, it will have me being able to teach elementary education, so grades K through 6, and then for grades 7 through 12, I can only teach math. And so I hope that helps answer your question there. So yeah, I hope that helps. But whoops, I went to the second page. So going down to the last bit of this third column of teacher education, we have here the professional semester of student teaching. And so what that looks like is we have you placed in a school, and it's we actually have you placed there as if you're a full-time person working, and we have you there for the very start of the semester to the very end of that school semester. And that's pretty much it's kind of like a senior capstone, if you will. it's you utilizing all the different skills you've learned along the way to embark on a semester of being in a classroom. And so you'll be with a cooperating teacher, and you will be able to be there day in, day out, from the start of class to the very end of class per day. And successful completion of student teaching in the classrooms, for us at K-State, it means 3 full weeks of you being the full go-to teacher. So that's 3 full weeks of you doing all the lesson planning, all the grading, all the classroom facilitation, all of it. But we know that in reality, that looks different for everyone. So a grad student that we just had in our department that worked with us, he actually just graduated with his master's. What he did, he actually student taught at Fort Riley. It's one of the local areas near us. And he was able to take over after just being in the classroom for only 2 weeks. His cooperating teacher saw him demo a quick lesson plan and lesson to the class, and the teacher was like, "Oh, you got it. You're a pro, and so you have it." And so that grad student, at the time when he was completing his secondary ed or elementary education degree, he ended up teaching his full 5th grade class basically for all of the semester. So, but again, that looks different for everyone, and whatnot. But again, a lot of good things to look forward to. And then this is our area of concentration column that kind of shows the different things that you can get into. So depending on what that looks like, for instance, if you're interested in English, then that will look specifically different than versus if you were interested in science or social sciences. So just something to keep in mind there. And I see that we have some more things in the chat. So Nick and Ashlyn, what do we got?
So Callista C asks, are there any specific classes that address teaching in one room type school, like a small rural school? The next one also kind of goes on that, so just kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So for the classes that you take, none of them necessarily go in depth for how it would work if you would be teaching in a one-room classroom. But what I would say, those experiences would more or less be highlighted when you go into your student teaching experiences. And so that's actually something that we'll talk about in a second, of like what the field placements look like. Because here at K-State, we have a broad diversity of what those placements can look like. We have the Manhattan area schools. We also have schools in like Wamego, Riley, and Rock Creek, and they're all set up differently. So like the Manhattan schools, for instance, are like your bigger 6A schools, or like your bigger elementary schools. But the more that you span out from Manhattan, the smaller the schools get. And so how they their operations for how they deliver their course content to students could be different. So I'd say that that's more or less highlighted in the actual field placements that you'll have. So were there any other questions, Nick or Ashlyn?
Yeah, so we have another one from Kaylee, and she says, can you teach more than one subject at one time?
That's a good question too. So for elementary education, yes, only because you'll be licensed to teach all the different subjects anyway. But for secondary education, you can be licensed to do that, but just know that you just need to pass those specific content exams. So for example, and actually I'll load up the secondary education one really fast so I can just kind of better display my point. So this is our secondary education curriculum guide. Again, it looks almost identical to the first one I showed you. So just to highlight that there. But looking at all these different teaching fields, right? So if you are wanting to teach more than one subject for a secondary education basis, so again, grades 7 through 12, you would just need to make sure that you pass those specific content area exams. So if I want to be able to teach biology, mathematics, and earth science, when I go to take my licensing exams, I need to pass all 3 of those areas, all 3 of those content exams for me to have that added to my license. So, awesome. And then, did you have another question pop up at all?
I just responded to one question.
Okay, perfect, awesome. So I know that was a lot about just the curriculum guide for these past few minutes, and I know that our time is wrapping up too. So I will get us back to the presentation really fast. Okay, I have that back on the screen. And Nick, Ashlyn, can we see that okay? Perfect, awesome. Okay, and so we went through the curriculum guides already. And so again, this pretty much just shows this shows the snapshot of what that looks like progressing through the educational part of our program. So like I said, we have our pre-professional students, and then we have our professional students that go through their different block classes. And so I wouldn't really talk about financing your education, but we are limited on time, so I will go over that. But again, if that's something you're interested in, feel free to let the hosts know, and then we can always follow up with more info later. But really looking at the job outlook, why would you want to go through an education program at K-State versus another area? So one thing to highlight is the job outlook. So for us at K-State, we're really fortunate to have a 99% job placement rate. And so what that statistic means is that out of all the graduates that we have graduating from our programs, we've calculated that 99% of them have a full-time job and or are pursuing another degree. So when we think about that, when we really think about job security or just, the job market in general, Dr. Schiefer kind of mentioned it in the beginning already. There's always going to be a need for teachers. There's a big need for teachers in Kansas. There's a need for teachers everywhere. And so what's really nice is that we have the connections to be able to help get you to where you'd want to be a teacher in. And if you look at the map, what you'll see, the golded highlighted areas just show the counties that we have a higher concentration of K-State graduates. So we are in Riley County, so that's this little K looking object right there. That's where we are. And so we can see that there's a higher concentration immediately surrounding the Riley County area where K-State's at. But we have teachers in every state in the country, and we have teachers in more than 53 countries worldwide. And so that's pretty cool to share. So I'll now throw it to Ashlyn and Nick to talk a little bit more about student involvement. So I'll let them take it away.
Okay, let me find the unmute button. So I love being involved at K-State. There's so many things to be involved in. That includes within the College of Ed. There's a lot of different organizations in there, and then everywhere throughout the university. So I'm a part of Greek life here. I'm in a sorority, and I think it's a great opportunity for our kids from 4-H because it is the way we run things in sororities and in fraternities is very similar to 4-H meetings, and through Greek life you can kind of continue your journey through 4-H. It's very interesting how similar they can be. And then I also was part of SGA, so is Marcus, which is student government on campus, and that is also even more similar to 4-H. We go through parliamentary procedure, and we are doing community service on campus. So we're actually deciding legislation and rules and things that happen on campus. So that's my student involvement that's around campus, not just in the College of Education. If you want to speak on that, Nick.
Yeah, so like Ashlyn touched on, there's like 475 organizations. I just pretty much know there's a lot of very obscure small organizations that if you feel like something isn't on campus, which is very surprising, you can just start it with a group of 2 or 3 students. It's really awesome. I personally am really involved in housing and dining here. I'm actually a resident assistant in the residence halls, and I also have a lot of organizations with that. But there's a lot of different organizations that you can get yourself into, whether that be sports activities. There's a lot of religious groups on campus if that's your thing. There's a lot of honorary organizations, like Ashlyn touched on, a lot of fraternities and sororities. I was involved with a fraternity for a little bit. And there's pretty much nothing that you'll find here that, what kind of religious groups? One of the big ones on campus that you probably hear a lot about is, I think it's SUMO. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So that's one of the biggest organizations on campus. But yeah, in other words, there's a lot of things to get involved in. You're not going to have a boring time here if you get involved.
Yeah. And on the note of different religious groups, it was asked in the chat. Yeah, so there's student mobilization, there's a Christian challenge. There's also a group called Ichthus that they actually have like a property just like right off campus as well. But yeah, there are a ton of different religious organizations too. So a lot that may fit what your religious interests are. So, but I'll also let Ashlyn and Nick talk more about education or about involvement in the College of Education.
Okay, well, I'll start again. So I am an officer in KDA AE, which is our student program of KNEA, which is a part of the larger branch of National Educators Association. And so our purpose on campus is to mostly provide professional experience and kind of guidance, as well as some, I don't know what to call them, programs that we have guest speakers come in and talk to us about their experiences in education and different subgroups such as like trauma, student teaching, how we can more effectively go through those experiences.
Yeah, I'm also really involved in the education of ambassadors. I'm the vice president here. Ashlyn, aren't you also involved in Kappa Delta Pi?
I'm not, actually.
Oh, it was Spot. Okay, gotcha. Got those two mixed around. But yeah, there's a couple other ambassadors that I know that are also really involved in Call Me Misters. I know it's not on here right now, but there's a lot of different things on the College of Ambassadors that like help us really connect to the college and get more involved. So just like the other things on campus, these are just really good opportunities to get yourself more involved in campus and in your profession.
Perfect. Thank you both. And so, again, I kind of already asked it before, but just to kind of, again, be more direct with it. So why the College of Ed? So, if you're looking at us over any other school or other programs, why College of Education? Why should you be an education major? So first is the professional advising model, and I'll go through these pretty quick as well because I know that we're going short on time. But first is our professional advising model, and just what that means, just like what I said before, all of our advisors that you see, not only on the screen, but all the ones that we have in the College of Ed in general, they've all been educators before. So they've either been a teacher or they've been a counselor, a professional counselor for students. And so they've all been there to support students directly in the schools. And now they're supporting our current College of Ed students that are coming through the program. We also talked about this before as well, our faculty. So what's really awesome is that our Dean of Education, Dean Mercer, like about a year ago, she asked all of our faculty, how many years of experience do you have teaching in the classroom? And so she took that, she added up all the years from all the different professors, and it came to be more than 1,000 years of teaching. And so that's, that's so much wisdom and knowledge to have firsthand, to which again, like, they're now professors at K-State, and they're now teaching you directly of those different skills and practices that best relate to better teaching outcomes. And so it's awesome that we have a really great array of faculty that have experience with teaching students. So technology is our other piece that we like to emphasize. So we have a nook in Bluemont Hall called the Catalyst space, and so I kind of think of it as like an extension of your Hale Library. And so any student can go there. It's not just for education majors, but typically education majors are the only ones that go. And we have a lot of different tables set up, a lot of different booths and everything, and a lot of our furniture is mobile, and so like has the chairs with the wheels and tables with the wheels, so that you can construct your learning space in the best way that's most appropriate for you and others, that if you're working on a group project or anything. But we also have like our full technology media center here. So if you need to check out a computer for a class presentation or like an iPad for a class presentation, then this is the spot where you'd go. But inside the Catalyst is our maker space. And the maker space is a really good area for you to go to for you to use different materials to make different lesson plans for classes, or for your classes. So you can't really see it, but the little, I'm gonna try and move the mouse to hover over it. But this object here in this corner, this is actually a 3D printer. We have 2 of them in the makerspace, and so it's what's really cool is, like, say that you're teaching science, you can utilize the 3D printer to print off a double helix model for you to show to your classroom about how DNA works. You can also use it to print off different parts of something that you can combine together to make something else. And so, that's just an example of one of the many things we have in our makerspace. What's something that I think is cool is that we actually have a basketball in there that when you bounce it, it measures the amount of force applied to it. So if you're trying to do a quick physics lesson or even like a math lesson and want to use like a real world problem or real world scenario, we have those tools in there for you to use as well. But the swivel is another technique and tool that we use, and I think it may be something that we may trend to using more of, just due to social distancing aspects and everything moving forward. But essentially, how that works, it's a device that you put your iPad or that you put your iPad or phone on, and essentially it's designed that the user is wearing a lanyard or some sort of device on their person. And how it works is the swivel detects the device, and whenever you're moving around the classroom, the device will move and follow with you. And so it's a really great technique to practice, for you to reflect on your own teaching styles. And so a lot of people told me I like to use my hands. And so during this entire presentation, I've been using my hands a lot. I've been trying to keep them out of the frame so that you don't see them, but I'm just more of a person who likes to use their hands, but it's a good way to look at techniques. And so if you like to move around the classroom a lot or not, then you can kind of detect that. But it's also a good way for you to keep an eye on what your students are doing as well. So what's nice about the swivel is that you can set it in a part of the room where it can capture the whole entire group. And so while you're teaching, if you're unable to detect to see if all your students are paying attention, then the swivel is a good way to kind of like capture that for you. But you yourself can use that. Your cooperating teachers can use that too as a way to observe and see how you're doing, all the fun things. And then the other thing is our iPad and e-textbooks. And so we have a lot of professors that are trending in the College of Ed that are trending to having e-textbooks, only because they're a lot cheaper to utilize and update as time goes on, to where that's just saving you more money in the long run, which is what one of our goals are within the college. I see that the chat is blowing up, so before I move on to the next slide, I'll let Ashton and Nick help moderate some of those questions.
We have most of them answered, but the one recent question was, how would you go about teaching in a developing country?
Awesome. So well, this is a really good time to highlight our Education Abroad program. So Education Abroad is something that so the university itself has a study abroad program, right? So within the College of Education, we have our own abroad program as well. And so, for instance, this last semester, we had a professor that was helping her students at K-State. Those students at K-State were actually like live chatting, so like video chatting like we are now. They were video chatting with students that were in Sweden. And so it was a way for the students at K-State and the students that were in Sweden to learn how to teach interculturally. And so if that is something of interest, of like wanting to learn how to teach in a developing country, then that would be something that that once you get to K-State, that you just work with us on, just with what those experiences can look like. Following that, there's a ton of different options of programs that you can pursue for you to want to teach. One of my personal friends, she and I got our master's degrees together. She's actually going to China in August, and she's going to be teaching English there for 2 years. And so that's something she was able to do through our Education Abroad connections that we have. So
I would also like to mention, we have a friend in Ambassadors actually that's going to be teaching, I forget which country next year, but he's going through the Peace Corps. So there's a lot of different options for you to go and do that later on.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that we only have like 3 minutes left. So I already talked about the diversity of practicum experiences, like for field placements and whatnot. And so, again, depending on what you're looking for, K-State can definitely help you find that area for your field placement. And then I'll let our ambassadors talk about Education Experience Day really fast.
Yeah, so Education Experience Days are awesome. We haven't actually been able to do too much of them because of the virtual platform as of recently. But the idea, so I'm assuming many of you guys are not quite seniors yet in high school, and you're not going to go to college next year. I'm not exactly sure where you guys are at right now. But let's just play out a scenario where next year you have the option to go and look at colleges and everything. Education Experience Days are a great opportunity for you guys to go and see what it's like to be in our situation. So you'd go and apply for it, and you'd get placed with one of our ambassadors, possibly even me if I'm like set up for that day. And the idea of it is you'll be going through our day with us. So you'll be going through classes with us, and you'll see where we go to eat, all of our classes. You'll be able to interact with all those classes, walk around campus with us. It's kind of like a day in the life of a K-State EdCat, which is really awesome. So I'm not sure when all that's going to be happening again, but just definitely look out for it. It's a really good opportunity to get and see like a true experience of it all.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So regarding next steps, like we said, maintaining a good GPA is always good. If you can take classes now, either AP or any other classes for college credit, that's always helpful too. But stay in touch with us. We want to be sure that that we get all your questions answered if you have any more following this. So if you do need any more info, my info is on the screen. You can screenshot that if you want, or like take a picture of it with your device. I'll leave it up for a bit. But I realized that, you know, again, a little bit less than a minute left. I didn't talk about special education. So if you're wanting to do special education, what that would look like, the best route that you could take would be to go into elementary education and take special ed as your area of concentration. And then after you do that, there's a quick start program that we have that can launch you into the master's degree of special ed that you can complete within 1 to 2 years after that, after you graduate with your undergrad and elementary ed. And then that's how you can be licensed to teach special education. So that was really fast, but thank you all for joining us for today. We're right at 10 o'clock, and so I guess at this time I'll turn things back over to the host of the Zoom call.